At the minute, there is a country that is driving out their politicians and their journalists. I know.
Actually sounds amazing.
To the Western world, this sounds somewhat like a dream. However, in response to the worsening economic situation, citizens of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka have taken to the streets to protest the fact that many people do not even have enough food.
I think that's grounds for protest.
I would say so. So, before I get into it, allow me to address the American in the room. Sri Lanka is a large island off the coast of the Indian subcontinent, and here you can see it on the map.
No, you can't.
There it is.
There we go.
So there it is, just off the coast, very close to India. You can't miss it now, hopefully. So, moving on. Politicians have been targeted specifically for mismanagement, with 3 dead so far, and journalists have been targeted for spreading pro-government propaganda. Kind of impressive that Sri Lanka has mobilised far better, I suppose. Being hungry is
Well, weren't they at a
great
multi-decade civil war until quite recently? So I think they're used to mobilising.
That is true, yes. So there are also growing powers for the presidency to cede powers to the parliament. And the political system is a sort of mixture of the presidential and parliamentary system. So that's why they're trying to move it from the president to parliament.
Yeah, because parliaments work so well for us.
So yes, we're going to look eventually at some clips of what's actually going on the ground, because it's very interesting. So I'm just going to introduce some of the facts to contextualise what we're about to see, so you can follow what's actually going on. So this is from the BBC saying the Sri Lanka crisis. Gotabaya Rajapaksa speech fails to reassure as crisis grows, and he is, I believe, the president. So Sri Lankans have criticised a Wednesday night speech by the president in which he ignored calls to resign and vowed to restore order. And we'll see what the restoration of order will look like in a second. In his first national address since protests began last month, he offered to cede some of the presidency's power to Parliament, but set no timetable. Sri Lankans who had been calling for him to resign over an unprecedented economic crisis were unimpressed. Many said the speech failed to address the real issues, and I'm quoting here, "Where were you for the last 30 days? People don't have medicine, people don't have food, the entire country is at a standstill. The reforms he's suggesting are not what we need. What we need right now is for the president to resign from office. It baffles my mind that Gotabaya Rajapaksa doesn't understand that." So it goes on to, the article goes on to say, on social media, many referred to the resignation of Prime Minister, who is also the president's brother.
Oh, goodness me.
I mean, there is a bit of a family dynasty going on. They also have, I believe, 5 members of their family in the parliament as well. So, yes, you've got your Sri Lankan Clinton family right there. I'm going to end up missing after saying that now. So earlier this week, they called for him to quit. "One down, one more to kick out," read one tweet on Thursday morning, which is this morning, the time of recording. "You should have advised your ministers and your own brother against influencing their goons to initiate a wave of terror. If not for their stupidity, Sri Lanka would not have experienced a wave of violence." So basically there were weeks of peaceful protests against the government, which turned violent once they were confronted by pro-government forces.
Okay.
Well, demonstrators, but demonstrators, if you get what I mean. So yes, although the PM has resigned, the president also chooses the next prime minister, so who just happens to be the former prime minister's brother, which seems a little bit convenient to me.
I wonder if the reverse is also true.
I don't know, maybe. So let's actually have a look at what has been going on, starting with this first video.
Yep.
No gas, no fuel, and various essential medications. And people are suffering, and the people are living with 1 meal per day. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I'm so sorry to say this.
I like how at the end he apologised for describing the situation. So yes, he's... if you weren't able to make out what he was saying, he basically outlined that they've got no medication, no food, living on 1 meal a day, which is enough reason to do this, I think, and to be angry. And the vehicle we saw them pushing into that lake and the vehicles littered there were actually of government ministers.
Wow.
So they were targeting
Excellent.
government officials' property directly.
Oh, I wish we
for
had
the
a
damage.
river outside Westminster, just out the front, where all
Well,
the cars are.
you might have your wish. So yes, next we are going to go to, this is a police officer who I have dubbed Sri Lankan Indiana Jones for reasons we're about to see.
Okay.
So here he is at the front there, being chased by a massive crowd.
That's terrible.
They are hitting him. However, I think there are people trying to stop them from attacking him. And you see people are still attacking him, but he goes down to pick up his hat and he's away. I feel like I'm narrating a horse race or something. But yes, he refused to leave his hat on the ground, so a very brave man being chased by a horde of people. I mean, not necessarily on taking the side of the government here.
He was a
but,
police officer. wasn't he?
yes, but I feel like that one police officer probably wasn't responsible for the nation's problems. So, something that I do commend them for, though, is I believe that this is the Prime Minister's son's supercar collection, and in this video you will see things such as Rolls Royces, Lamborghinis, Ferraris and McLarens, and let's see what happens to them. So, you've also got some SUVs there and a very nice house.
There's a limo there as well.
I believe so, yeah. So, quite a few supercars just to be the son of the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka,
Sure.
wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And what happened to them? Oh, how terrible! Oh, they were all burnt down. Oh, what a shame. I'm so upset. It's so terrible.
That almost brings a tear to my eye.
Yes. So they've directly punished the people who seem to be. I mean, that level of wealth of the former Prime Minister's
While
son.
people are starving.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a bit gratuitous, isn't it? And you can understand why they would take it out in that way. And it seems to me that there is a fair amount of corruption going on from the research that I did of people siphoning off money, which we will talk about in a second as well. So this next video is the burning house of a government minister. Yes, the entire thing has more or less been set alight there. So this is the house of Minister Sanaf Nishantha, I think. I think I read online that he is the Minister of Media. However, I can't necessarily confirm that at the minute because I wasn't able to actually find any details.
Right,
So,
okay.
I know it's some kind of senior politician, some kind of official, but I wasn't necessarily able to confirm that detail. But that's what I've heard at the very least. So they've also torched many other government ministers' houses as well. And I'm not going to show you those videos because most burning buildings more or less look the same, don't they? So we've got another 2 clips left. The first one is, I'm not entirely sure who this guy is, whether he's a politician or a journalist, but basically he's trying to get away with what looks like police assistants or maybe security guards. Let's have a look. Basically mobbed him there. I don't really get to see what happens, but I imagine he didn't have a good day.
No.
The next clip is of them attacking a bus. I'm not sure what the bus did wrong, but let's have a look. And you notice here lots of police officers just standing around watching it. They're not really doing anything. And just keeping people away, I think. I'm not entirely sure what the bus had to do with their economic crisis. I imagine this isn't going to help anything, but it seems like they're having a good time.
It's a tour bus, isn't it? Tours written.
So it does. I don't think that's going to help their economy, funnily enough. But yes, I don't know why this is going on, but it's something that happened, and I thought I would share it anyway. I think there's a final moment and then it ends. So yeah, I've not been able to make heads or tails of why they're doing that,
Right.
but it's there. Make of it what you will. So this next one is talking about how people are being dumped into garbage bins and supposedly wheeled off. I don't entirely know why they're doing that. I think he was a supporter of the government, and to be honest, it looks a bit silly. It doesn't look like they're really doing very much, other than it seems like something some drunk students would do on a night out. Yeah. Push one of their mates in a wheelbarrow-looking thing. And this next one is a bit more important and serious. So the army have been deployed in full battle gear, and they're trying to take control of the streets again. And of course, when you deploy the army to restore order, there is a real danger of a takeover, isn't there? A military coup. And this is something that could be possible, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah. So I believe this has happened in other countries recently as well. So, BBC as well has reported on this, and it's talking about why rioters attacked a museum of all places in Sri Lanka. So, it starts by saying it may pale in insignificance compared with the deaths and injuries of Sri Lanka's anti-government unrest, but the destruction of a museum this week is of great symbolic importance. The Rajapaksa Museum lies in the south region of Hambantota, where the ruling family of the same name has its stronghold. The museum features photos of the late Don Alwyn Rajapaksa and his wife Dandina, as well as clothing, household items and handwritten letters. But the demonstrators who attacked it on Monday, smashing wax statues of the parents and trashing the building, were possibly venting their anger on more than just the family. This is, of course, the ruling family, who are both president and former prime minister, and a number of people in that parliament as well. So the museum has become a symbol of alleged corruption. It was opened in 2014 when Mahinda was still president and Gotabaya was his defence secretary. Gotabaya had built it on private land using state funds, and the Sri Lankan Navy was directed to provide the manpower for construction work, while Gotabaya's own department, the Ministry of Defence and Urban Development, was involved in the preparation of drawings and other preliminary work. But after his brother Mahinda lost the election in 2015, an investigation began into the use of public funds. Gotabaya denies any wrongdoing, contesting the allegations that more than 60 million Sri Lankan rupees in public funds worth about 460,000 US dollars at the time had been used on the museum, but he later reimbursed part of the cost. Soon after he was elected president in 2019, the charges against him were dropped on the grounds of presidential immunity. So yes, it seems to me that there are a lot of corrupt goings on, and these people who are in charge somewhat deserve the ire of the people who are out to get them. And obviously, killing people on the streets is not what I am commending here. However, I don't believe that people like this should be in office that are using state funds in this way, particularly of a country that
supercars and build museums to their own family using naval manpower.
Yes,
that's blatant corruption.
So some of the protests, there have been some interesting reactions, such as wheeling out posters of Karl Marx. I think that's Engels and Lenin there. I can't make out who that last one is, but yes, this seems a little bit
this is in
opportunistic.
Sri Lanka?
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, there's lots of potential here for some funny business. You've got the military on one hand, you've got the socialists mobilising. There could be many potential avenues of takeover, and hopefully, things are resolved civilly and peacefully. Although I can't necessarily see that happening. So, on a slightly different note, there are Islamists who are trying to make this about them being victimised, which is very unusual. So they're basically trying to make out that this revolt and this food shortage and all of that is a punishment from God against the Sri Lankans, because recently they boycotted things like halal meat, because Sri Lanka is 70% Buddhist, 12% Hindu, 9.7% Islamic and 7% Christian. So there's a small Muslim minority that they're claiming are being persecuted.
So they're claiming that this sort of Buddhist religious intolerance and persecution of religious minorities, especially Muslims, is what's causing this.
Yes, and they're also blaming it on the ban on the burqa as well. So well done to Sri Lankans, although apparently there is a sharp increase in violence against Christians as well, which isn't quite as good. I think they necessarily deserve it, nor does anyone really. But just to end it, this is following on from your segment from yesterday.
It's old Zaid.
Yes, your favourite Islamist is here to point out that this is punishment from God. Sri Lanka followed the exact path of societal destruction which India is following today, and they are trying to ignite Pakistan too. The fact is that are destroying the societies are not external only. The society has deep-rooted fractures and were led by most corrupt mafias. Although I don't necessarily disagree with the fact that they're led by corrupt leaders. And they list the fact that they boycotted halal meat, violence against Christians. I'm not sure Muslims tend to care about that, but attacks on mosques, ban on burqas.
Oppression of Tamilians, the Tamil people, the significant ethnic minority who are on basically the losing side of the civil war.
Yes, I can imagine that actually being the case, to be honest. Propaganda through media, I mean, who doesn't have that? And passing of communal laws, well, I mean, it is a socialist country, so not really a surprise. And then he goes on again. One is not enough. So in this next one, he says, coming soon in many parts of the world, yes, there are external factors involved, COVID lockdowns, destruction of global supply chains, very high food and fuel costs, and the Chinese debt trap. But the core reason is the corrupt mafia family that ruled Sri Lanka like a private fiefdom. And I have to say that I kind of did agree with that.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then there he is, showcasing the fact that the Prime Minister's house wasn't set on fire
I don't
as well.
think Rajapaksa is a fascist, though.
No.
It's a bit wide of the mark there, old Zaid, but yeah.
It seems a little bit rich of an Islamist calling people fascists, really, isn't it? But I don't know. What do I know, eh? But yes, this is something that I think has been kind of a bit under the radar, but is a very interesting development that the situation, the economic situation, has got so bad that they have more or less tried to overthrow the government here and had some limited success, I suppose, but they've been targeting government ministers, particularly, and journalists, and it seems to me that a lot of the violence has been very focused on those specific people. It hasn't necessarily spread out to the general population in, say, South Africa when I think it was it Ramaphosa or Zuma? One of the two was imprisoned, and there were lots of widespread protests, which turned into just race riots, more or less, where people were targeted based on their ethnicity. But I haven't seen any evidence of that. It doesn't mean it's not going on, but I thought I would just let you know about this situation, a consequence of the terrible economic conditions that the world is experiencing at the minute.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the content we have on the site, such as this old interview, the interview with China Uncensored and Carl, which I just found a personal favourite, so I thought I'd enjoy again. Anyway, if you want to follow us and see what else is coming out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.